evolution of CSI. So where we all started, and I would say, I'm not even going, in any of the work we do, we're going back more prior to 2000. Anything that's happened to 2000 is history for us. So if you just think about the last 7 years, think about your practice, think about your competitors' practice, think about your peers' practice. What has happened is that at that time, it was mostly about, here's money, go and do stuff. It was a donation. It was a gift. It was a sponsorship. There was no expectation that resources had to achieve something. So it was discretionary spending, and it was basically either a CEO who decided or a board that decided. Somebody decided this is what we're going to focus on, and we're going to give our money. But there was no formal structures. There was not even engagement with communities. Some of us are still stuck in that way, okay? But for some of us, we've moved on. And the reason we've moved on, I would still say that the biggest influence in our industry was the BEE Act. Together with the Companies Act, together with King. Because that brought governance and compliance for the first time over our industry. Let me explain to you. King, for instance, says, from a governance perspective, 3 things. There must be a board committee overseeing community relations. It's called the Social and Ethics Committee. So no longer is it just like, you can do whatever you want to. There's an accountability brought about in this space, right up to board level. It goes further to say, if you're a listed company, for instance, with a social and ethics committee, at your annual general meeting, you will give feedback about the activities, about the strategy, about the engagement. That was then promulgated in the Companies Act, who really spoke about the form, the function, the role and responsibility of the Social and Ethics Committee. And as you know, with King 4 now, it's even applicable to NGOs. Okay, so when governance, the first level of governance came about, and it became a board responsibility, the whole business started to think about CSI differently. Up until then, it was just like those people in the corner. We're going to give them a little bit of money and they must just spend it wisely. But now with the first level of governance and compliance, there was accountability in the process. So previously, procurement had very tight rules and regulations. Skills development, HR, marketing, communications, corporate affairs, stakeholder relations, all those functions in business had very strong and very serious reporting lines. And it happened to CSI then for the first time as well. You have to be accountable. I'll come back to you just now. There was a third layer which just followed very soon after that. And that was on a reporting expectation. So with King, which led to the new Companies Act and the new listing requirements, that companies going forward have to report on how they generate value. And that information has to be contained in the integrated report. So, specifically speaking about social investment, companies now had to report on the value being generated by that social investment called social and relationship capital. So, that meant that practitioners for the first time had to consider both legislative, governance, compliance requirements. And boards had to actually scale up to do that. And so a lot of commentators in our space refers to this tick box approach. But it actually stemmed from governance. And all what they mean by that is, have you reported to the Social and Ethics Committee? Is it reported in your sustainability report? Is it reported in your integrated report? But I can tell you it's actually not happening that way. How can I say that? Because 400 listed companies have to report publicly. So every year I check, have they been able to describe the social investment and development process as generating capital to the company? I can tell you there's not a single company who's getting it right yet. Because it's not that easy either. In order to focus on the capital and prove the capital that's been generated, you've actually got to do an assessment and understand the impact that's generated. So in closing, I just want to tell you that governance and compliance had an enormous impact. And the outcome of that is business is taking it much more serious. Why? Because there's punitive damages associated with this. It's a good thing. But that's why the very first session after the trend section, we're going to focus on the business case.